Have we reached peak inflation? Hi, it's Charlie giving you your midweek video. I hope you're very well. And not only have we reached peak inflation, have we reached peak Fed pricing as well? So let's delve into those two questions in the course of this video. So first of all, have we reached peak inflation? Now we had the inflation, the CPI inflation's out of the States yesterday, and the headline figure was a beat, but the core inflation was a slight miss. So what we may start to find, what with the likes of oil, if I go to oil on my chart here, and now I just need to get to oil because I've shrunk my charts up for the video. So if we look at oil, this is a monthly chart, so we can see that, of course, we know that oil is down off of its highs up at roughly 130 there. If I put this down to the daily chart, you get a better perspective. So oil peaked in early March, and we're off at the moment. Still holding up very well, but nevertheless, we're down a bit from there. Now, if oil remained lower into over the coming months and remained down, then that would result in inflation starting to come down. But that's still from a very high level, remember. So inflation is still very, very high. So it's just going to be coming off from that point. But what we may well see, if I come back to the dollar, is that we may well look back on this, we don't know, and say in 6 months' time, and say, yes, around the spring of 2022, we reached peak inflation. Interest rates still have to rise, but are we reaching peak inflation? Okay, so that's the question here. And what are the consequences of that? Coupled with that, let's go back to that other question of have we reached peak in Fed pricing? So the JP Morgan's survey of fund managers was out yesterday or so, and 77% of them believe that we've reached peak Fed pricing for 2022. And so could it be, coming back to the dollar, that if we have reached peak Fed pricing, has most of these rate increases, which are coming, have they been priced in to the market? And if they have been priced in, how much further has the dollar got to go higher? Now, this is on a daily chart here of the dollar index. So how much further has the dollar got to go if it's priced in? Remember, the markets are always a forward pricing mechanism. So could it be, and if I actually take us out to a monthly chart here, just to see what that horizontal line relates to, it relates to these highs through here. So not the spike highs, but I'm looking at a number of these highs through here and through this congestion zone up here as well. So we're into a resistance, an overall resistance area. I could make a copy of this and drag it up, and if I do that, I could then create a zone here. We've got this resistance zone here that we're in, and of course we've got our absolute peaks. If I drag this one up again, and then we've got our absolute peaks right up here, but I don't need that one on because that's fairly obvious. So we're into a zone here of for the dollar of resistance. Now, are we going to continue to just break out and just have an even stronger move as the dollar just breaks higher? Bear in mind that the euro dollar is at a real pivotal area at the moment as well. So either we are going to get an explosion higher in the dollar, or we're not. That's good. This is really useful, isn't it? Or we're going to see a potential, I'm not going to say a reversal, but certainly maybe we see a bit of a pullback, maybe, or a congestion slash consolidation. Because if we have reached peak pricing in the dollar, then it'll be interesting to see, well, okay, if much of this price that we've got built into the dollar here, we're at this key 100 area, um, if that's built into the price, where is it going to go next? Where is it going to go next? And we've already seen just a slight offering on that CPI inflation yesterday. Now, admittedly, PPI, producer price inflation, today was still very strong, but we could be nearing a point where the dollar decides to take a bit of a breather as we reach that. Now, we won't know about whether we have reached peak inflation. We won't know that really for a good 6 months, will we? Until we can cast our eye back and then see if there's a change in that, in where we're at. But these are questions that need to be answered and pondered when we're looking at the markets. So, if you're already long the dollar one way or another, whether you're long the dollar against the pound, the euro, whatever it might be, then you're in a nice position to hold on to some of that, because we could still see this dollar thrust higher. But I do think it's well worthwhile being mindful of the news and what is going on out there, and looking for any catalyst which could start to bring the dollar back off, because we have got to this point where technically it's into a resistance zone, which it could break out of. But if it doesn't and it starts coming off, then we could then see the beginning of a more of a longer term, or medium term should I say, over the next couple of months, at least a bit of a retracement. I think that overall the dollar looks primed to come up and challenge these highs in the medium term. But I'm talking about, or medium to long term. But I'm talking about in the shorter term here on the monthly chart, some things to consider. Is inflation peaking right now? Let's have a think about that as we go forward over the next couple of weeks. Is it in that situation? That I'm talking about in the US here, and also how much of this dollar run now is priced in, and certainly the Fed rate hiking cycle, how much is that is priced into the dollar. And if it is getting to that point where that's most of those Fed hikes for this year are priced in, then we could still see we could in fact see a bit of a consolidation going on here. Still think in the longer run, dollar still looks primed for more upside in the longer run, but in the shorter run here, that's what we're talking about here, are some things to consider. There you go, just a couple of things to debate and consider there with regards to the dollar. I think that longer run, it still looks primed for a run higher, but in the near term, in the shorter term, over the next, maybe in the next month, 2 months, could we see a bit of a consolidation here, and so it just backs away from this resistance zone, and only time will tell. We need catalyst events for that to happen. So have a look at your economic diary, see calendars, see what catalyst events may produce something like that, and form your own respective trading plans, because it could be that there aren't any, and the dollar just carries on exploding higher here, and it doesn't pull back. But it's a case of looking at the market, looking to see if there's any price action which actually gives you that inclination that it might be beginning to do that retracement. We're not seeing that just yet, but keep mindful of it. And there you go. That's some food for thought there for Wednesday. I'll come back on Saturday for your weekend video.